I'm Andrew Capel, the host of the Leader Leverage podcast. On this show, we'll talk to revenue leaders, company executives, and entrepreneurs to hear how they unlock go-to-market leverage. Let's get started. All right, welcome to one of the pilot episodes of the Leader Leverage podcast. We'll talk to leaders to understand how they get leverage in go-to-market, all in about 15 minutes. So without further ado, Adam, tell us how and why you got into leadership.
So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I spent 10 years as a credit default swap trader. I worked at a bank called Lehman Brothers. There's a movie about it called The Big Short. And my roommates in my first apartment that I lived in New York, the first day I got there, were working on this website. I remember it very clearly. They were in this little room. One of them was like making this webpage in Dreamweaver. It was baby blue. And it said Vimeo. So I think we all know what happened there. I watched these guys have this like crazy like entourage type like, life or whatever. And I wanted to do that. So, I think that wanting to be an entrepreneur was what got me into leadership, because I don't think there's any other way to I'm not aware of a way to be an entrepreneur besides a solopreneur, which I'm not. So yeah, it was kind of like I guess I like being a leader, but it is a tool for me. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not doing entrepreneur for leadership. I'm doing leadership to be a good entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, the entrepreneurial bug, you caught that virus or jumped into it from your roommates. And you were speaking at the SaaS Doc conference last week in Austin where we met, and you had mentioned you had some other neighbors. It was another startup that you were right next to, and I think was that there in Austin, and similar thing.
Jasper AI, yeah. I have been renting a desk in these guys' office, not a co-working. It was their office.
Yep.
And like I met Dave, we got along. He's like, do you want to come work here? So I was like, cool. He's like, sweet, $500 a month. You can like have a conference room or a desk or whatever. So
that's awesome.
That was for 2 years before they started Jasper. I was just sitting there with those guys, and we were all some schmucks stuck at 3 million ARR. And, they had a tough time. Like they spent 18 months. So they had this one company that was like stuck at 2.5 million ARR. They raised $2 million. They were burning 50 grand a month. They tried to build this site personalization tool solution, whatever you want to call it. And they launched it and no one bought it. And it was like during COVID, and they're like, oh, it's because of COVID, but like it wasn't. So they got some paycheck protection money. They shrunk their staff. And then like this Jasper thing. So like at the time, I thought that the move, I had started what is now retention.com, and I had my other startup, and they were both at 3 million, and they both had 6 people, and they were both spitting off $1.5 million. And I was like, Dave, like we should have 4 or 5 of these each, right? Like then that's a great life. He's like, yeah, totally. So it was they were literally they were out of money. They were gonna have to like shut the lights off and like
kick you out as a subcontractor.
Yeah, and then like the next thing, it's like I got this text on like December 29th of 2020, and it was like, here's the first. It was a Stripe receipt that had $100. It's like, first customer, got the idea 7 days ago. Hopefully this is my retention.com, right? Which at the time was 3 million ARR. And yeah, man, it's like I kept coming in, and every day they'd have like another like 100,000 MRR or something, like something totally insane. And it went from 0 to 50 million ARR in 12 months.
Wow.
And it just, I love telling the story because like I didn't I could have heard that story on a podcast and I wouldn't have believed that it applied to me,
Yeah.
but like sitting for years, stuck in the same spot that these guys were stuck in, who were not Stanford grads and, did not take VC and did not, do the social, like they were normal dudes just like me. And they did this thing. And I'm like, oh, I can do that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I've had a couple of those, kind of just been very close to something that has made me made me think something else is possible for myself.
Yeah. So you got to be near the action. It wasn't a coincidence, in New York and then in Austin.
I mean, it was a coincidence to some extent because I just happened to end up like I roomed with my high school friend,
Yeah.
and he went to college with these two guys. So
Wow.
yeah, it was sort of coincidence. It wasn't like I was like, I want an apartment with like some tech guys
with these startup folks.
Yeah, who are
Okay.
like starting something.
Wow.
And like, I don't think anybody expected the Jasper thing to go how it went.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. So you're going to have all these entrepreneurs wanting to hang out in your office.
I know. I got a little 12 by 12 office here that I work in alone with my 6-pound dog, and I'm going to have people setting up their desks over there.
There you go. Nice. So this is the Leader Leverage podcast. Adam, I know you know something about this from retention and now our B2B. So how do you unlock go-to-market leverage?
So like, a great team is leverage kind of by definition. It's like you're scaling yourself to a large extent. And then look, I mean, I have just never experienced anything like what's going on with my profile and Santo's profile on LinkedIn as it relates to creating awareness and business for our B2B. It's just crazy. And it's like a perfect scenario. It's like, I am an incredibly credible person to be doing what I am doing in terms of content creation on that platform. And the readers are living on that platform and they're the ideal customer profile for the product. So it's just like perfect. That has there is no other way that has ever existed that could create the type of awareness that we've been able to create for what we're doing so quickly.
Yeah, you couldn't pay for it. You couldn't even do
literally. If you had $1 billion, you couldn't buy enough ads to create the type of trust that it's creating. You might be able to create brand impressions, but you couldn't create the type of affinity that is being built through organic social media. And it's kind of like a way of thinking about it. So like, I think that the reason the Kardashians can be billionaires is because they're doing the same thing. It's like when you are good at creating content where the content alone is worth concentrating on, and you're building audience around that content and you're not paying. It is truly organic, right?
Yeah.
When the consumer of that content is focusing, like a post I made about Santos last night to try to promote this webinar next week. It's a perfect example. Like it had a great hook, and the person who is interested in that hook, they're reading that post so diligently that like that's like 100 times the attention they would ever give.
Ad.
Yeah, some fucking LinkedIn ad that's just throwing a case study in your face,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like when I say no one cares, like no one gives a shit about a fabricated case study, right? Like, that's like, to me, it's like such an old way. It's like, I have shitty Glassdoor reviews because we had to do a downsizing. I don't think anyone cares about my Glassdoor reviews.
Right.
Like, because I'm not manipulating them. It's like, it's like, if you've been following me, I have shitty Glassdoor reviews because I fired more people than we had employees 6 months before.
Right.
Right. Like, what's going to happen? You're going to have shitty Glassdoor reviews, right? Like,
you're owning it. You're not trying to.
Yeah, totally. So it's like, it's like, it hasn't totally made its way into B2B yet. Like, I think Russell Brunson did a great job at it, but strangely, his market was like a blend of B2C and B2B, I think, in this like very small business. But like, I don't see how, if that alignment exists between the founder being the ICP and the ICP living on the platform, that organic social media content would not be the most extraordinarily high leverage skill that you could ever acquire to market a business. And I mean, B2B is behind B2C always, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a
The
reason why
trends. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
reason why those girls are billionaires, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people feel like they're best friends with them, you
Yeah.
know? And you can't do that through an ad. You can't do that through a fucking white paper, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't.
That's really interesting, and I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating. If I understand this correctly, you brought on Santosh before or after the idea, where you had blown up on LinkedIn, and you had a B2C or the retention.com business. Then did you bring on Santosh, or did you decide
No,
that you were going to try to build a product with all this influence that you were developing?
the latter. We brought on
Okay.
Santosh before. We brought on Santosh before I even started posting on LinkedIn, and then
Okay.
for a year, the posts were trying to aggregate audience in e-commerce, and then Labor Day last year, we were contemplating creating a B2B solution. And I have a LinkedIn coach, and he's like, and like I was getting a bit jaded about the LinkedIn effort for ecom because it just wasn't booking demos. It like was creating some ecosystem awareness,
Yeah.
ecosystem level awareness, but it wasn't driving measurable business. And I was like, oh, you know, I was like, Alec, we're thinking about making a B2B product. He's like, dude, like if you write how you write about what you've been through and direct it at people like you, he's like, we will be able to get any B2B revenue person on the phone. Guarantee
Wow.
you. This is what I do. So I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, might be a good time to switch and just try it. He's like, so you want to go half and half? I'm like, nah, I'll just like go whole hog into this and see how it is. So I put
Yeah.
out one post about like why BDR was fucked, basically. And it was like a bunch of stuff that people were just afraid to say, right?
Yeah.
Like it
They were
is very
thinking that they would
scary.
say.
It is very scary to admit that like this machine that you thought worked doesn't work, right? For whatever reason. And then it was like 100x any post I'd ever put out. And I was like, well, that's
That struck a
wild.
chord. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And then so I write all my LinkedIn posts at once. I sit down for an hour and a half or 2 hours and I just like bang out 3 in a row. So we were in Santa Fe over Labor Day last year. We had an 8:00 dinner. It was 6:00. I told my friends, I'm like, I'm going to go write these 3 LinkedIn posts before dinner. Went in and wrote them. And I've been talking about this because like this post, it was so interesting to me that this post blew up so hard, right? So I'd been speaking about it, been like, man, this LinkedIn thing is like it's whatever. It's interesting. So I wrote these and then I got done and I was like, I think those are killer posts. If those crush, then I know what a good post is. If they do not, I still have no idea. Right. So, and then sure enough, drop. Like, but I mean, just, it's like, it took me 12 months to get 20,000 followers. In 1 week, I had 40.
Wow.
And the line went from here sloped like this to sloped like this, and it hasn't slowed down yet.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You've been doing content for quite a while, so it's not.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, it started. It started September 2022 was my first post. So, what are we like? A little over a year and a half. We're not quite at 2 years in. But yeah, I've been making content that I deem good, and I sort of understand why I'm doing what I'm doing since Labor Day of last year.
Wow.
Before that, it was a bit. I had no idea.
Yep. All right, we're gonna close it out with the rapid fire. So, Adam, what did basketball teach you about business?
This is a weird answer. I was on a lot of shitty basketball teams. I just learned how to lose. It sucked. I learned how much it sucked to lose. I really only had one good year my senior year in high school, and I think a lot of these things that we do are very analogous to life in a lot of ways, right? Like there's just lessons about people and the nature of competition and like sort of like how if you show up with your game face on, like you can influence other people to also show up with their, this story that like when Michael Jordan was at practice, the Chicago Bulls practiced way better than when he was not there every time.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah. And like, I don't think I ever really had a great coach, but I've read about great coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And man, great coaches they play a special role in like a young man's life. Like just, somebody that holds players up to high standards in life, not just the game,
Yep.
I just think that that's like I have this belief that there's this Vince Lombardi quote that I absolutely love. He's not a basketball coach. He's a football coach, retired,
Yeah.
but maybe he's deceased. I don't know. But like he says, the quality of a man's life is directly proportional to his commitment to excellence in any endeavor.
Wow.
Says it all right there. I totally
Yep.
agree, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So outside of building businesses and blowing up on organic social media on LinkedIn, what do you do as an outlet? What do you do for fun? Any hobbies?
Yeah. So I live in Austin. I like wake surfing. We have a boat that's like parked in a marina 10 minutes away. I have an almost 2-year-old child, a daughter named Emma, and I have a wife who's going to have another child in September. So for anyone who's ever been through that stage, you know that it consumes basically every free minute that you have. So between, I try to go in the lake, try to eat a little healthy. I try to run every morning. But like, it's kind of like there's work, there's family, there's not really.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
try to be a little bit social when I can, we travel probably way more than we should, like for weddings or whatever. I mean, it
That's
tends to
cool.
not be like, yeah. So
You got to come
that's
to
kind of,
New England in the summer. I'm sure it's going to be pretty hot in Austin.
yeah, it's hot as balls. We're going to Europe in July, and then we're kind of on lockdown. I lived in New York, so like we did the Hamptons thing a
Yep.
bunch. Where are you located?
I'm in Rhode Island, so I'm
Got
just
it, yeah.
about 15 miles as the crow flies to the Hamptons, but
Yeah.
I don't have a boat, so I
Yeah.
can't get there that easily.
Yeah.
So
Someday.
yeah, for sure. No, but Rhode Island's a great setup. Can go surfing 10 minutes down the street. There's no jobs or tech ecosystem out here, so I have a
Right.
remote business, but it works.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. All right, wrap it up. So you mentioned the 12 by 12 office. Are you in an office or are you in a home office?
I have an interesting situation. I was kind of like doing a couple days at home, probably like 3 days in the proof office and 2 days at home. They kicked me out of there because they downsized offices. They didn't downsize people, but they had an office that was like way too big for the amount of people that were going to it. And there's like a crappy office building on the corner of my street. So it's like literally like a 2-minute walk to my house.
Wait, to get
Where
out
there's
is
like a
nice.
bunch of like, lawyers and psychologists,
Yeah.
whoever else.
Local
Yeah.
businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I just rent a little room in here, and my video guy John made this dope backdrop that
It looks awesome.
he now thinks people are copying. So he wants to do a new one this July.
Redo it.
Yeah,
So I need.
it'll
Hey,
look
can you
different.
refer him over to me? I live right by the Amtrak Northeast Corridor from Boston to New York, so I have trains going by 5 times an hour. So I have my little train set up, but I need professional help. So,
man, it's a big difference.
yeah.
I struggled with it for a long time. When I was like, I'm going to start doing video. If you look at my really old shit on LinkedIn, like I didn't know what to do. I wonder if I can turn this. I don't know if this is advisable or not.
Go for it. Yeah.
But like I had this painting behind my camera.
Yeah.
And like I thought that was better than like kind of the alternative, like kind of what you have, I guess, is like a door or whatever,
Yeah.
But like I had this view that the background was important. Like it like matters what people are looking at behind you,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something I gave a lot of thought to, and he came in and like, when I got a new office, like he came in and like made it look dope. It definitely looks way more dope than it is.
Right. Small world. Yeah. I've been told not to be in an office because the viewers are going to always be looking at the door thinking someone's going to open it. So I got to rework my setup. I have the Jesse Itzler big ass calendar, which is kind of cool. So you can like map out the entire year. I have a standing desk over there, which is fun. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap it up. Adam, why don't you just close it out with explain to the audience what you're doing with our B2B?
Yeah. So our B2B does person level website visitor identity, meaning someone can hit your site. They don't fill out a form. We can figure out who that is, and we can push their LinkedIn profile into a Slack channel for free. It's US only technology. The GDPR concerns always shoot. And yeah, check it out at rb2b.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. I post a lot. If you use LinkedIn, you probably know me.
My favorite use case was the run LinkedIn ads to drive visitors to a landing page and then unlock that. Because I had the other podcast I run, How the Deal Was Done. We do a buyer and seller episode. So we had a buyer from IBM who bought a seven-figure transformation project, and we brought in the seller, and it was a joint buyer-seller episode. It blew up, and so they actually said, "Hey, let's put some ad money behind it." So we spent a couple $1,000s on LinkedIn ads. So we got all these impressions, but like we couldn't correlate it and convert. So yeah, I really wanted to set that up.
Yeah, that is a use case for sure.
So great. Well, we'll link that to the show notes and get everyone to give you a follow and connect with you on LinkedIn, or maybe not connect with you, but give you a follow on LinkedIn.
Would love that.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leader Leverage Podcast. If you'd like to connect or learn more, you can find me on LinkedIn at Andrew Capel, or you can check out and subscribe at leaderlev.com. That's www.leaderlev.com.